Wake up.
Welcome to the Kerberos Muster Drill.
I'm Bubba.
And I'm Tiny.
And today we're breaking down 1899 Season 1, Episode 7, The Storm, and Episode 8, The Key. The whole first season. If you haven't watched the first season of 1899, go into a death spiral, go to sleep, come back, and then listen to this podcast. This week we are also going to have minor, and I mean minor spoilers for the show Dark. We're going to talk about Dark because Dark was created by the people who created 1899, and there are just certain things that are thematically similar between the end of the first season of Dark and the end of this first season of 1899. We're going to give you a warning about it, but in case you are spoiler phobic, know that we're going to give you a warning. We'll tell you to jump ahead 2 minutes, and then by then we'll be done. So
if you haven't watched Dark, you can watch Dark and listen to our Dark podcast, Wind and Caves.
The Wind and Caves, it was the very first episode review and recap and theory podcast on Dark. Dark exploded and became in English, I should say. There might have been some in German. But Dark exploded and became an international hit. Listen to the Wind and Cave podcast to hear us talk about this. Tiny, we have just finished Season 1, so I want your initial impressions on the final 2 episodes and your initial impressions on the season. Let's hear it.
Well, we did give the Dark spoiler alert, but, my initial impressions is it remind me of Dark in that you kind of stop following who are the good guys and who are the bad guys. It becomes really blurry. So that's kind of my initial impressions of the last 2 episodes.
That is a wonderful point. That is something that I felt was going to happen. They were pointing Maura's father, Henry, to be such a villain. And there was always a part of me that said, is he though? It just felt like that would be the next shoe to drop. They position him as a villain, but in his own perspective, he's trapped in this mystery world. Does he want to do it? Were you happy that they jumped forward to 2099 and we're now out in outer space? What did you think about that?
Well, Bubba, I don't know about you, but I totally saw that coming. Obviously, they were in sleep machines traveling through space. If you didn't see that coming, I can't help you with all the clues.
Well, yeah, it's so relatable when you're in a sleep machine traveling through space. My initial impression of these final 2 episodes is that when we did our first podcast, we were talking about, hey, there's been some mixed reviews. Some people loved 1899, the early critics who saw it. They said, oh, this is wonderful. And then some critics were like, this is a journey to nowhere. I saw episode 7, which ends with the Kerberos going through the wormhole of the tidal pool, I don't even know, the whirlpool, into the junk pile where all the other simulations were run. I knew it was a simulation, but just the visual of them going through these characters, even if they're in a fake world, them realizing what in the world is going on, I was like, this is incredible. It was visually stunning. I was totally blown away. And then when it was in space, and I think there's a 50-50 chance at least that space is another simulation, I saw it and I was like, oh, I don't know. So I am mixed. Once again, I love certain parts. I did love the end of episode 7, but the end of episode 8, I was like, is this really just another simulation? Come on.
Come on.
So, hey, we've said our initial impressions. What do we care about, Tiny?
We care about our listeners' impressions.
That's right. We want you to reach out to us on Twitter, Instagram, Hive, at DoublePHQ. That's the word double, the single letter P for podcast, HQ for headquarters, at DoublePHQ on those social media apps. If you're still on Facebook, facebook.com/DoublePHQ. If you're on YouTube, go down in these comments. Tell us we're right. Tell us we're wrong. Some people have loved these series. Some people have said, I want my Dark back. I guess I'm somewhere in the middle, but hey, we want to hear from you. And to show you that some people love this series, we've got a bit of news, Tiny. Did you hear that 1899 has been nominated for Best Foreign Language Series?
I did not hear that.
Crazy. For the Critics' Choice Award. This is up against I believe it's the Danish show, and I've watched the early seasons, Borgen. There's The Extraordinary Attorney Wu, Garcia, The Kingdom Exodus, Cleo, My Brilliant Friend, the great Italian show on HBO. I've seen all three seasons of that, so good. Pachinko, which everybody says is one of the best shows of 2022, and Tehran. Have you watched any of these other?
I have not watched any of these shows.
You would love, if you love complex friend/frenemy shows, My Brilliant Friend, the Italian show on HBO, is great.
That sounds good.
And Borgen, just for people who love international shows, Borgen was a Denmark version of what we would call the West Wing. It was like if you watched that old U.S. show, The West Wing, Borgen, I called it a bit more serious-minded because the West Wing sometimes had, kind of flights of fancy. Borgen is a real hard drama, but set in the world of Danish leader, president, I forget what she was, but really, really good international show. And it came back, and Netflix brought it back for a new season in 2022. Okay, so Tiny, I want to talk about Dark a bit. And listeners, if you haven't seen Dark, it is a show I highly recommend, one of the best shows ever, I believe. But I'm going to talk about it just for a little bit of time. So listeners, jump ahead about 2 minutes if you don't want to be spoiled on the end of season 1. So Tiny, how did season 1 of Dark, what was the last line said in Dark season 1? Do you remember what it was?
I do not remember.
It was, spoilers for Dark, it was Jonas waking up in the future, and what was the last line said? It was the girl with the gun saying, "Welcome to the future," and smashing him on the head with the butt of her rifle. This show ends, "Welcome to the future." I mean, is this the exact same pattern we're seeing?
It's funny, one of my bonus sons is home from college, and he is just starting on 1899, and he watched Dark 3 times. And I'm listening to him watch 1899, the first 2 episodes, and he's insisting that it's connected with Dark.
And okay.
So I don't say anything. I just let him watch, and I listen to, him trying to rationalize that this is some way connected to Dark. And of course, the common actors, perpetuate that theory for him.
Okay. If you've jumped ahead, we're still talking a little. These are somewhat dark spoilers. But do you remember the quote that season 2 character Adam would love to say? Adam said, "A human lives 3 lives." So the first ends with the loss of naivete. What did season 1 end with? It ended with her loss of naivete. She's waking up. So, okay, the spoiler for the rest of this quote is the second is with the loss of innocence, and the third is with the loss of life itself. So, do we know the 3 seasons of 1899 already?
Yeah, there you go. Maybe that's a tee up.
All right. So, the showrunners, we're not going to really break down these episodes like we normally do, just because it's big ideas. And let's get to those. This is a married couple. The man in the relationship directs all the episodes. He does a little bit of writing, but he directs all the episodes. His partner, Jante Friese, she writes all the episodes. And so the director, he said, what they'll have to find out first is who put them in the simulation. And then the bigger question, how do they get out of the simulation? Any thoughts on this of, can we figure it out as viewers? Who put these people in a simulation and how did they get out?
I think, we're always looking for clues for what's happening. But I think what you said before, Bubba, is maybe these are just red herrings, fake clues all the time.
At the end of season 1, it's implied initially that Dr. Maura put them in the simulation. She built a simulation with her husband originally because they lost their son. They were going to lose their son. Let's build a place where we can always have our son with us. And so they build the simulation. Somehow the simulation grows until it incorporates this huge universe of places. And so how do they get... She theoretically gets out of the simulation, if space isn't another simulation, by putting her wedding ring in a pyramid. And so is it really just moving past, okay, my husband's dead too, so I put my wedding ring in, and now I'm getting past my son dying, my husband dying, and that's how you get out? Any thoughts on that?
My thought is, if they're already in the simulation, why do they need to get shot in the neck? Is that like they're being I don't know, fed in real life or another fake life? Or why are they getting shot in the neck?
If it's really just a simulation, why does the simulation have video panels on walls that you can pull out? Why does the simulation have wires and computers that Daniel goes and connects his little puzzle slider device to so that he can change the simulation?
Who is controlling the simulation?
Well, it's implied it's Maura's brother, the brother she's been looking for the whole time. I honestly don't think there's any way it's her brother. But how about this? Her brother Ciaran, whose name comes up on the computer screen in the spaceship, is Ciaran somebody we've met already?
Oh, that's an interesting thought. You know, when things are starting to unravel and things are starting to be revealed, I have to say I was looking for the Captain Eyk to have a little bit more of a intentional role in the simulation.
Well, you went exactly where I'm going. What if Captain Eyk is Ciaran? Now, where would this come from? He is the captain of the ship. Who would drive a simulation? The captain would drive it. There is a line in one of these final 2 episodes where Daniel is with Maura, and he's like, you're going to go into this room. You don't remember this room in your brain, but your body will remember. Something like that, right? It's like your body will remember this. You've been through it. One thing that we see is that even though Maura, if we're to believe this, was married, she does have this intense connection with Captain Eyk. Is that like the equivalent of her body remembers? And is it like they always try to hold hands? Are they?
Like an unspoken trust between them.
Right. Is it something their bodies are remembering? And I apologize, I didn't write down the quote about, hey, you go into this room, your mind won't remember, but your body will remember. Things will remember. And so I wonder if that's somehow Captain Eyk and Maura, which I took as a romance, is really just siblings bonding. And so that's why they always kind of want to hold hands and feel very protective of each other. So have we met Ciaran before, listeners? We've said our piece. We want to know what you think. Speaking of what these creators think, so I read that quote from the director. What did Jante Friese say, Tiny?
She said ultimately it's about our existence, why we are here on this planet and who we are and who created us.
Oh boy. Okay.
So are we in a simulation?
Yes. Okay. If we're in a simulation, why are we here on this planet? Because God wants to run a simulation. Sure. And why did he do it? Because he wants to see what?
So how many times do you think Miss Friese
Yes.
Watched The Matrix?
Well, White Rabbit, Go Ask Alice. Yes, certainly she's seen it a bit too many times. As that song was always about going through the looking glass, as they say. It's about our existence. Okay, so why would human beings be in hibernetic sleep, forced to live this program every 8 days? Well, maybe in hibernetic sleep, the only way you survive hibernetic sleep is to keep your brain active. So maybe that's why they're in this simulation. Keep their brain active. Keep the brain stimulated so they're living as they're on this space journey. We mentioned that Maura in characters have the downward triangle with a line through it symbol. We've mentioned before that's the alchemical symbol of Earth. Maybe that means they're traveling back to Earth. Maybe that's trying to say that's where they're from and we're going to a new planet. So it's about our existence. What if we still need to live? And so we're sending people out to a new planet, populate a new planet. You get an arc of people from every continent. That's why you have all these different languages and people speaking different things. And you send them out, and you got to keep them alive somehow. How do we keep them alive? Well, you keep their brain active by being in a simulation. How's that go?
Why do you think 1899? Why do you think they went? Do you think they've been in the space machine for over 100 years?
Ooh, that is actually very smart. I thought thematically, these were people leaving their homes, going to the new world. And so if you're leaving Earth, going to some new planet, it's kind of thematically relevant. Otherwise, no, it doesn't make any sense. People alive in 2099 are not really going to have any memory of what it was really like to live.
That's what my question is. If you're in a space sleep machine, wouldn't you draw on your memories to define the world around you. Or they're just in a super VR simulator.
Well, I am almost positive, listeners, keep me honest, I'm almost positive that when you see everybody in the hybernetic sleep, people like Crester, they don't have their scars. Like Crester didn't have his face scars. So this dream world where Tove,
what you call her?
Where Tove pushes the gun and it causes that scarfing on Crester's face. That didn't happen at all. So why would that be part of a dream? It's a good question. And why would Tove be pregnant? Like, you really wouldn't want to be pregnant when you're in cybernetic sleep.
Well, I think I said this in another episode, but I just finished The Good Place.
Right. Possible spoilers for The Good Place.
Oh yeah, don't listen if you haven't watched The Good Place. It's a great show, but they are in hell, maybe.
That would serve them right, all these sinners.
But then it gets to, they're in this simulation because they've killed somebody. Maybe that's not even relevant.
Exactly. So you take this guilt on. Maybe the guilt of killing someone is the equivalent of, I'm leaving everybody behind on a dying earth. And so I have that bit of that guilt of, I killed this person. So say, let's really go crazy. So you have Ramiro, who killed a priest and took the priest's outfit. We never saw that really happen in any of these dream world backscapes. But maybe it's, hey, there are only so many places on the spaceship to the new world, and he takes somebody's place, and so that guilt kind of rips him on his journey.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so part of this certainly has to do with Plato's The Cave allegory. And so let's read this. The cave is a cave where people have been imprisoned from childhood. None of these people have probably been imprisoned from childhood, right? But not from birth. The prisoners are chained, so their legs and necks are fixed, forcing them to gaze on the wall in front of them. And they're not able to look around. Behind the prisoners is a fire, so light is being cast onto the wall, and they see shadows. People are causing shadows behind them. And so the idea is, Socrates suggests, that the shadows are the
Socrates. Socrates. Otherwise known as Socrates.
I love you, Bill and Ted. Okay, so Socrates, you read it. What's it say?
Socrates suggests that the shadows are reality for the prisoners because they have never seen anything else. They do not realize what they see are shadows of objects in front of the fire, much less that these objects are inspired by real things outside the cave, which they do not see.
So that is very much, my boy Socrates is pretty much saying what these people are, that they are prisoners. That's what they perceive as reality because they can't turn their heads literally and see outside.
So they're in prison.
That's what he says. But now Plato, that's
correct. Yes, not Pluto.
Or I was going to say Play-Doh, the great toy when you're a kid that you can't eat. He says, well, okay, imagine one prisoner is freed. The prisoner would look around, see the fire. The light would hurt their eyes and make it difficult for them to see the objects casting. And he were told, no, this is reality rather than the reality you thought was that shadows on the wall. This person would fight it. They would doubt it. Is that what's going to happen to Maura? Is Maura going to not believe that this is real? And is Maura going to want to return to the VR world, which is where Plato suggests the prisoner would want to go?
Bubba, do you still like Maura? You've been Team Maura the whole time, but, you've got the little beetle kid, and he is, has an awakening that she's the one shooting him in the neck. I don't know, maybe like her a little bit less.
This goes to Dark. This is just a skip ahead 2 minutes, I guess. In Dark, were there really villains? Yes or no? Were there really villains? There were people who, because of their wants and their needs, would do terrible things for what they thought was a good cause, for love in almost every instance. Like literally in Dark, people are killed for love. But were they really villains? Because they thought they
thought they were doing the right thing.
They thought they were doing the right thing, and they thought by doing this one action, it might save everybody in the end. And so,
well, the thing about Dark is it took a long time for me to like any of the characters, you know? And then you kind of grow to like them because you feel bad for them, you know, Olek in the prison and stuff like that. That was his name, right? So, you know, I think it's the opposite here. I kind of like Captain Eyk and Maura. And then with Maura, you know, I just like second guessing yourself. Are you a good judge of character?
Now, let's go to the sun. Well, hold on. Let's finish the cave allegory here just because we're talking about it. So long story short, Plato says, okay, at a certain point, the person would go outside the cave. They'd say, oh, look how wonderful this is. This is beautiful. Look at this reality. They'd go into the cave and they'd try to tell everybody else in the cave, hey, I want to free you so you can come out and see this. And the people inside would hate that person, think that person was crazy, and want to stay in their prison staring at the shadows on the wall. Do we imagine that's what's going to happen to Maura? Is if she re-enters the simulation, everybody is still on the ship, and she's going to say, hey, come get in this cabinet with me. Hey, come put this thing in the pyramid with me. And they're going to fight her. I'm trying to think about season 2 and where it could go.
I'm wondering if she's even a doctor.
I would hope so. That would be that. You know what? I can take a lot of things, Maura, but you got to.
I mean, like just from 1899, how many female doctors are there?
I want to go to the end of this, though. Plato says that those prisoners who love their reality of the shadows on the wall, they might try to kill anyone who attempted to drag them out of the cave. Now, what's funny is I think Maura would have been that person. If Maura's like, I built this so I could stay with my dead child, and you're trying to drag me out of the cave, how dare you? I want to spend eternity with my son who I love. And so I would think Maura would be the one who would try to kill somebody for dragging me out of the cave. Would anybody on the crew that we saw really hate Maura if she pulled him out of this hellscape that is the Kerberos and the Prometheus and all these cruises?
If you were the architect of the simulation, would you not pick a different scenario?
Yeah, how about a happy cruise?
Yeah. I mean, like, let's go to Disney World with your kid, not lock him in a cabinet with the magic beetle.
well, okay. If I'm coming up with these crazy theories. So they're going to the new world. We got to keep them in the simulation so the brain stays active when they're in cybernetic sleep. But do you want these people to not fight and cause war? Do you not want, do you want man to go to an Eden? And so you're almost testing the people to see how do they react in stressful situations. Or is it Daniel who keeps screwing up, and it would be a peaceful cruise if Daniel didn't keep messing it up with his attempts to reach his wife? I don't know. Okay, these are all crazy.
These are all crazy.
Now we should note that when we look around the spaceship and we see everybody there, certain characters aren't there. Henry is not there. So is Henry real or just a program of the computer? Daniel, her husband, is not there. And Elliot, the child, is not there. Have their consciousness, has their memory.
They don't really exist.
They don't really exist, but could by 2099 your consciousness be put into a machine and you live in a VR yourself? And therefore, once again, the only way you live is by this computer?
That is wild.
Would you want that? If your consciousness could be uploaded into a computer and you could live forever, you're living in a computer world, but it is your consciousness. Maybe I'd do it. I don't know. You wouldn't. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not with these simulations.
Right.
No.
Well, that's Henry.
But it's a fear of the alternative, right?
Right. Henry's sick of it. He's like, daughter, you dragged me into this damn thing. Why don't you wake up so we can get out of this mess? Maybe I'm Team Henry. Wouldn't that be hilarious? The dad's been evil this whole time. And I'm like, okay, I'm with the dad. Get me out of this. Unplug me for God's sakes.
But they don't know what they're waking up to.
Oh, that's exactly right. Okay, so it's the end of the year. It's time for some end of the year awards. This is a incredible cast with all these languages being spoken. So wonderful. I love that about it. But we're going to give some awards. So for this excursion, let's go to Awards Island. Who will you name the best performer, the best actor, actress, the best performer of them all? Who is your favorite? Who should win the award for giving the best performance?
Well, I think probably part of this is familiarity, but I'm going to go with Captain Eyk.
That is very much where I'm going to go as well. I'm going to give it up for the actor who plays Crester. Crester, if you listen to these podcasts, I'm all over the place. Like, I'm pretty sure at least by...
Love-hate with Crester.
Love-hate with Crester. And then when Crester turns out to be what I thought was a non-playable character, I'm like, oh, okay. So the fact that I did love him and I did did get very frustrated with him, I'm going to give it to that character. Listeners, who do you think did the best acting on this show? There was a lot of range. Certainly Captain Eyk had to have a lot of range. Well, nobody had really big laughs. Nobody had to do a scene.
Yeah, not going to find big laughs or, spoiler alert, on Dark either. No laughs.
The audience had some laughs. There weren't always laughs for the characters, but yeah. Okay, so who do you think was the best performer, did the best acting job, had the biggest challenge? All right, how about the creepy kid? He was also very creepy.
Yeah, he was good at being creepy.
How about this? For the child, did you ever come around and say, oh, this cute kid. Oh, I feel sorry for him.
I kind of liked him better when he didn't talk.
Okay, so a completely different award, but certainly just as subjective. This has nothing to do with acting. Who is your favorite character of them all, Tiny?
My favorite character is Jerome. Hands down, kind of blending in with the shipmates, and then, getting caught, thrown in the brig, and then saving not only the woman he loves, but her husband. I think he's a real hero.
That is a great call. It's so good, I'm upset I didn't think of it. I'm going to go, I actually have two. There's a part of me that by the end of it, and once again, I thought he was a non-playable character, but I really kind of liked him. I'd really grown to like Olek. I was like, okay, this guy's pretty good. He's helping Ling Yi. He was always on Captain Eyk's side, so I like that. But I'm going to have to go with my boy Captain Eyk. It could be familiarity, but I just think he's so... He had a tragic backstory. We learned it in the second episode, even though it may not be real. I wanted him to succeed. When people mutinied against him, I was on Team Eyk.
That's a good point.
So. Favorite scene, Tiny? There was a lot of insanity. What was your favorite scene across 8 episodes?
I don't know that favorite is the right word here, but when people are going overboard, it was shocking. And then realizing that's probably what happened with the Prometheus it was just shocking. And honestly, that the characters, some of them have the wherewithal to tie themselves down. I would be like, well, I don't know what these other people are in a trance for. I feel fine. But, I just think it was the most, emotional scene for me, watching people jump overboard. No. And some surprise characters jumping overboard.
Oh, yeah. For me, I'm going to go with my favorite scene is the one I talked about at the top. The end of episode 7, where suddenly there's this giant whirlpool, sinkhole. They're going in, the ship's going into it, but also kind of like going right through it. It was just beautiful. It was a beautiful image. And then when the ship comes out and it's in that ship graveyard, I thought it was incredible. That was my favorite scene. Listeners, who's your favorite character? Who's your favorite scene? Right at DoublePHQ, we want to know. Okay, Tiny, you know what time it is now. The least valuable character. So we talked about our favorites, but who was the least valuable? We had so many characters. Who was the least valuable who you were like, why are we following this character person storyline?
Again, I don't know if valuable is the right word, but, Ling Yi's boss, holy cow, I can't stand that woman. Doing the exam? That was horrible.
Sorry. Yeah. Miss Wilson. Miss Wilson.
She was horrible. Least favorite character.
I'm going to say least valuable in that Sebastian. Sebastian was who I called the inside man. He had a beard. He was Captain Eyk's lieutenant, I guess you'd call him. But he was really working with Henry. But even if he was working with Henry, it wasn't like he was doing much of anything. So I'm going to go Sebastian. I was like, what? In the end, what did he really do, if anything? He did what Henry wanted, but in the end, they weren't successful in their goal. Why not just have Henry doing this stuff? That's who I'm voting. If you could be in one or the other, would you rather be in a simulation of a cruise across the Atlantic in 1899, Or would you be in a simulation of a spaceship going to a new planet in 2099? Which, if you were going to go to the Void, that VR shop that I don't think survived the pandemic, which simulation would you want to go to?
I mean, I got to go spaceship. Of course. I mean, it's going to get lonely if she's the only person who wakes up. But I think you have to go spaceship in that. Just, I've been on a cruise before. Never been in space before.
Do you want to really go to space? Would you want to truly go to space?
I really liked that movie. Was it Passengers? It wasn't a popular movie.
No, it was not a popular movie
at all. But I
actually
really liked it. And they were all sleeping, trying to get away from Earth to, because Earth had some virus or something like that. But I actually really liked that movie.
If I were choosing simulation, I would want to go to space for sure. I've done a real cruise. I don't want to, I don't need to go to a recreation of the Titanic. But unless space travel really improves to where it's more like a Star Wars movie where it seems pretty smooth, I've seen rockets take off. I'm like, that looks too rough. I do not want to do that.
Yeah, no, we grew up in Challenger days.
I know, yeah, sadly we did. All right, hey. We always say we want to hear from you at DoublePHQ, Twitter and Instagram at DoublePHQ. Tiny, we got a lot of feedback. Let's get to it. What's the first bit?
Camille at Harley Camille says, as I watched episodes 5 and 6, I was constantly saying, in quotes, WTF? Are those people jumping or just pawns or actors for Maura's dad? Is her dad doing experiments for Emperor Palpatine? Oh, hey, a foreshadowing on the space theme.
Yeah.
Oh, wrong show. I will be irritated if these people are Westworld robots.
Oh, man. Thank goodness. How about this? There's no way these are Westworld robots, right? Even if space is a simulation, they're still real humans, you would assume?
I don't know. I think some of the non-playable characters. I don't know.
Okay. Later, Camille sent us a tweet that said, "Welp, didn't predict that ending, not even close. I am not a fan of simulation movies or show, but I did enjoy this show, and I always do enjoy space shows, obviously. Will we get a season 2? Have you ever... Camille, I'm exactly like you. I'm not normally a fan of, it's a simulation. Let me say, I'm a huge Wizard of Oz fan, and in the movie, unlike the books where it was a real place, in the movies they try to play it off as, it was just a dream. And so I love that movie, so I guess I'm a hypocrite here. But normally I don't like these, it's all simulation movies either.
Well, I never liked simulation ever since Bobby was in a coma on Dallas.
Oh, boy.
And that entire season was just a dream.
That is a huge spoiler.
Spoiler for Dallas.
That was terrible.
It was.
That was so terrible. That was the only way they could figure they could get the actor back. So they said, let's just wipe out a season. Oh, terrible.
But, Bubba, I'm thinking about you with, on our prior shows talking about maybe this is a video game. Do we think Maura leveled up?
Ooh, that would be wonderful. How about this? Where is your stepson in his 1899?
He just finished episode 2. And it's so funny because he's just over-analyzing most of the things. But, I'm kind of at the table listening to him watch. And it's just interesting, some of the things that he's noticing that I didn't notice. So I think it's like a box of chocolates. The ride is a little bit different for everybody.
I want you to set up a hidden camera. Then record his reaction when everybody jumps overboard. Let's see that.
Yes, okay.
And then record his reaction when you find out it's in space.
Subscribe to the channel, guys, and we will post Cooper's reaction when everybody starts jumping overboard.
Okay, now back to your feedback. We got somebody who was following these tweets named Lionel, who's at Lionel_maybe on Twitter. He responded to Harley Camille's tweet and said, I'm not a fan of simulation themes either, but I got to give props to these creators. It was handled brilliantly and executed brilliantly. It was impossible to predict what was going to happen next.
Well, that is true. That is definitely true.
So I think that here we have a couple of people who normally don't like simulations, but because this was such a roller coaster ride, they did like it. Tiny, what did Heath say?
He said, just wanted to throw this out there for the 1899 ending. They literally stole from the ending of the US version of Life on Mars. Spoiler for Life on Mars, everybody.
Well, you did just spoil Dallas.
Well. A2. Heath continues, show that ended like 20 years ago. They even played the song Starman that was played a bunch of times on the Life on Mars series. It really killed the ending for me. Most people probably didn't see the Life on Mars finale ending, but I can't get past it. What'd you think? Bubba, did you watch Life on Mars?
I didn't, mainly because the American version, the review said it was terrible, unlike the original British version, which I sadly didn't have access to watch way back then. I bet with all the streaming services, I bet we could watch it now, so I never did watch it. But this kind of jumped to the future where it's all a simulation. There are all sorts of interesting twist endings. There's the twist ending of the original Planet of the Apes films or The Sixth Sense. And so it kind of makes sense that this is a twist ending that's been done before. I just doubt that these German creators have seen the American version of this one show. But there's also a part of me that really does believe that the space ending is simulation too. It's like going to a new level. You're talking about leveling up. It's a new level of the game. And so
you're saying, hold on, Heath, that's not the ending.
I hope so. Heath, because we hadn't finished the show yet, Heath, we hadn't been able to listen to your fun take on it, but we will. And so we'll have to figure out, how about this? But let's go back to I think it was Harley's question. Will there be a season 2? And this is a big question because Netflix, which used to never cancel anything, Netflix is in all these streaming services are having credit crunches. Tiny, what do you think? If there isn't a season 2, is this a satisfying story on its own, or does this show require a season 2 to be a satisfying tale?
I certainly would like a season 2, but I'm okay if it's not, to be honest. I the little like snarky something about coffee. What is that?
Hope your coffee kicks in before reality does.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like it reminds me of this insane movie. It was very popular when I was in college. In the end, the screen just flashed black and it said, have a nice day.
Well, that's a bit like the Holy Grail's ending. I don't think it's that, but okay. Tiny, we did get more feedback, and we love your feedback at DoublePHQ. David Ward, our good buddy David Ward, did some screen grabs and some notes and some clues. So when the Telegraph sent the coordinates of the Prometheus, it sent this latitude and longitude. And what David found was, if you put that into Google Maps, it is in the middle of the North Atlantic.
That is extra credit for David. Thanks for sending that.
What's interesting is Eyk had a line 4,000 meters deep. Nobody knows what's down there. And so, David, are you implying that maybe they're actually not on a spaceship, but at the bottom of the ocean doing exploration?
Oh, that'd be cool.
That would be cool. We got this great feedback from David Gobert. What's that say, Tiny?
The story building is just great. The show is definitely slow burn, but I'm hoping it does pick up a little.
Well,
I think it did.
I think it did too. It certainly, once again, this is a trip. This is a fun trip to watch with friends, to watch their reactions. So always let us know what you think. If there isn't a season 2, listeners, are you going to be disappointed if the show didn't become a slow burn that never picked up? How did you feel? Once again, reach out to us at DoublePHQ on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook.com/DoublePHQ. Tiny, any thoughts on our long space journey to season 2?
Like I said, I'm okay either way. I mean, certainly I would prefer a season 2. I think it would be really fun for us, fun for our listeners. But, if it just ends that way, I think that's pretty funny too. What do you mean credits? They're low on credits. Netflix
and these streaming services, they used to survive on growth, meaning they weren't making money. But it was like, look at all the new subscribers we're getting. Look at all the new subscribers we're getting. At a certain point, the people who've invested in your stock want to say, well, where's the actual profit? Especially when you start having subscriber growth like Netflix has had. So because there's been less people joining, and in fact, in the US, there's actually been a quarter where they lost subscribers overall. The investors are then like, well, okay, where's the profits? And it's like, well, there really aren't the profits we like. So it's like, okay, well, you've got to tighten your purse strings. And so Netflix, which used to make millions of episodes and millions of seasons because they could, nowadays they've been telling people, unless you're Stranger Things, unless you're a giant show like Money Heist, you get 3 seasons and that's it. And some shows don't even get a second season. So it'll be interesting if the numbers on this show are as good as you would imagine they would be with a show that can have international appeal.
I would predict we're going to get a second season. That's my prediction.
All right. Well, how about for our final question, our final shore excursion? Is space real or is space another simulation?
I honestly did not occur to me that it might be another simulation, but I actually love that idea. And I love the idea that maybe she leveled up.
Oh, that would be good too. All right. Hey, for everybody here at the Kerberos Muster Drill, I'm Bubba.
And I'm Tiny.
And you'll catch us on the next cruise, which might not come until 2099.
Hey, you know what, Bubba? What we'll do is if there's no second season, we'll just make up one. And you guys can listen to that podcast.
Captain Eyk comes out of the simulation and starts taking down suckers. He grabs Ciaran's head and rips it off and says, "Let these people go."
We could do this. We're creative.